Studio microphone asterisk asterisk. He survived bullets, bombs, and the battlefield, but nothing prepared him for what he saw at home. His girlfriend, now wearing a wedding ring, standing next to his best friend. This isn't just betrayal, it's heartbreak beyond. War. Broken Heart Military Medal Ring. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. He dreamed of home every single night, but nothing could have prepared him for what he found. For 2 long years, Aaron Mitchell, a 26-year-old Army sergeant, had been fighting on the front lines of a distant war. Every single day, through gunfire and chaos, through pain and exhaustion, one thought kept him alive. Home. But more than home, it was her, Lily, the girl he had grown up with, the one he had fallen in love with during high school, the one who held his hand at the airport and whispered, "Come back to me," with tears in her eyes. Aaron carried her in his heart every second. In the middle of battle, when fear took over, he would reach into his chest pocket and pull out a creased photo. Lily's photo. Her smile, so soft and warm, had become his shield. Some nights, in the dusty tent where he and his squad barely slept, he would take out a tiny notebook and write her letters. Letters full of love, hope, and promises. Promises of wedding plans, road trips, and a quiet life far away from war. He imagined it all. The moment he'd walk through the front door, the way she'd run into his arms, the way her voice would shake when she said, "I missed you." That dream played in his head like a movie, over and over again. But the reality waiting for him was not the ending he had pictured. When the day finally came, Aaron stepped off the plane in his dusty uniform, duffel bag in hand, heart pounding with excitement. Other soldiers were greeted by families holding signs, kids running to fathers, wives crying in joy. Aaron scanned the crowd for Lily's face. She wasn't there. Maybe she was planning a surprise, he thought. Maybe she was waiting at the house, their house, with candles and music and his favorite meal. He could barely sit still in the taxi on the way there. He looked out the window, recognizing the streets of his childhood town. Everything seemed smaller, quieter. But one thing hadn't changed. The little white house with the red door. They had picked it together a month before his deployment. It had a swing on the porch and an old tree out front. It was supposed to be their forever home. He imagined her standing there, opening the door with tears in her eyes, just like in the movies. That he walked up the steps, holding a bouquet of fresh daisies, her favorite. His palms were sweating. His heart raced. He took a deep breath, smiled, and knocked. The door opened. But it wasn't Lily who stood there. It was James. Aaron blinked in surprise. James, his childhood best friend. The guy who used to spend summers camping in the backyard with him, who once helped him build a treehouse, who cheered him on when he told Lily he loved her. James stood in the doorway, looking like he'd seen a ghost. "Aaron?" he said slowly. Aaron grinned, still caught in the joy of homecoming. "Hey man, I'm back. I didn't tell anyone. I wanted it to be a surprise." "Is Lily inside?" There was a pause. A long, uncomfortable pause. Then James stepped aside slightly, and Aaron saw her, Lily, standing at the end of the hallway. Her eyes wide, her mouth slightly open. Her hair was shorter than he remembered, and she looked thinner, older, different. But what caught his eye was the thing he wasn't prepared for. A wedding ring on her finger. His heart slowed. His mind raced. He looked at her, then at James, then back at her. He waited for an explanation, for a joke, for someone to say this was a mistake. But no one did. Lily whispered, "Aaron, I didn't know. I thought." Her voice cracked. Aaron's bouquet dropped to the floor. The photo he'd carried through bullets, through blood, through fire, now felt like a lie. Aaron stood still for a moment, staring up at the familiar house. The little white house with the red door, the same one they had picked out together before he left for war. He remembered Lily squealing when they signed the lease, her spinning in circles in the living room, saying, "This is where we'll raise our kids." It was their dream house, a small, cozy place tucked at the end of a quiet street. An old tree shaded the porch, and a crooked wind chime hung from the edge of the roof, just as he remembered. Aaron took a deep breath and adjusted the bouquet of daisies in his hands, her favorite. He had walked the last few blocks from the station just to enjoy the feeling of home again, to give himself a moment to prepare. His boots hit the wooden steps with slow, steady thuds. His heart thudded even harder. This was it. This was the moment. He had waited for through gunfire, through lonely nights, through letters he wasn't sure ever made it. He could already imagine Lily's reaction, the gasp, the tears, the way she'd throw her arms around him and say, "I knew you'd come back." He smiled. Then, he knocked. There was a pause. A quiet rustle inside. The door creaked open, slowly, and standing there was not Lily. It was James. Aaron blinked, confused for a moment. James looked almost exactly the same, tall, athletic, with the same scar on his eyebrow from when they fell off their bikes as kids. James was Aaron's best friend since the second grade. They had built forts together, skipped rocks at the lake, and gone on double dates as teens. James had even helped Aaron plan his proposal to Lily, though Aaron never got the chance to pop the question before deployment. Now James stood in the doorway, eyes wide, face pale, as if he'd just seen a ghost. "Aaron," he whispered, barely audible. Aaron broke into a grin. "James, man, you look like you've seen a zombie. Come on, get in here, give me a hug." He stepped forward, expecting a warm welcome, but James didn't move. His hand still held the doorknob tightly, as if unsure whether to open the door wider or close it shut. "Aaron," James said again, this time with a little more weight in his voice. I I didn't expect you back so soon." Aaron let out a light laugh, trying to ease the tension he didn't yet understand. "Yeah, early discharge. No one knew. I wanted to surprise Lily." "Where is she?" He lifted the flowers slightly. "Hope she still loves these." Silence stood a long, heavy silence. James didn't answer. And that's when Aaron's smile began to fade. He tilted his head, confused. "James? What's going on?" James's lips parted, but nothing came out. He looked over his shoulder, just briefly. And that's when Aaron's eyes followed his line of sight. And that's when he saw her, Lily, standing just a few feet behind James in the hallway. Barefoot, wearing a soft blue sweater. Her mouth slightly open. Her face pale. But it wasn't her expression that shattered Aaron's heart. It was the wedding ring on her left hand. His breath caught that he blinked, as if the scene would change when his eyes opened again. But it didn't. She was still there. She was still wearing that ring. James still stood in front of her, blocking the doorway like a barrier between past and present. Aaron looked at Lily, then at James, then back at Lily. No one spoke. The only sound was the soft wind brushing the old wind chime, making it sing a hollow tune, like a song of heartbreak. Aaron felt the bouquet slipping from his fingers. One by one, the daisies hit the ground. A petal caught in the breeze and fluttered away like it couldn't stand to stay either. Finally, Lily stepped forward, her voice a whisper. "Aaron, I thought you were." James gently interrupted. "We thought you weren't coming back." Aaron's voice cracked for the first time. "I wrote every week." "I know," Lily said, her eyes glassy. "But the army said your unit was ambushed. They said most of you didn't survive." Aaron's jaw clenched. "So you just gave up on me?" James tried to speak, but Aaron raised a hand, stopping him. "Not from you," Aaron said. "From her." He didn't shout that he didn't cry. He just turned around and walked away from the house with the red door where love once lived, but no longer waited. The room felt like it had frozen in time. Aaron stood in the doorway, bouquet now scattered at his feet, eyes locked on the woman he had loved more than life itself, and the man he once called a brother. The silence was deafening. Lily didn't move. Her lips trembled, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. James took a step back, but still stood between them, as if shielding her from something. Or maybe, from guilt. That Aaron's voice cracked the silence. "Lily, say something." Her eyes welled up. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Finally, her voice broke through, soft, trembling, like a candle flickering in the wind. "Aaron, I thought you weren't coming back." His heart sank. The words didn't make sense. Not to him. Not after all the letters. Not after everything they had promised each other. "What do you mean?" he asked, stepping into the living room. His boots echoed on the hardwood floor like a countdown to heartbreak. "What are you saying?" "Right now." James shifted uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck. "We didn't plan for this to happen," he said, his voice low, strained. "We were both grieving, and we thought you were gone." Aaron's hands were trembling now. "I wrote to you, Lily," he said, looking directly at her. "Every single week. From every post. Through sandstorms, through gunfire, I wrote. Did you not get them?" Lily slowly shook her head. I got some in the beginning. Then the letters stopped. And then the military report came. They said your unit had been ambushed. Only 2 soldiers survived. You weren't on the list. Aaron clenched his jaw. So you just assumed I was dead. Her voice cracked. We held a memorial, Aaron. Your photo was in a frame. People brought flowers. I wore black for months. He stared at her. He couldn't process what he was hearing. He had been grieving too, but for home, not for himself. Every day, he clung to the hope of her, that she'd be waiting, that love would survive what war couldn't destroy. He looked over at James, who stood with his head down. You knew, Aaron said bitterly. You were my best friend. You knew what she meant to me. James nodded slowly, unable to meet Aaron's eyes. I know I betrayed that. But I swear, it didn't start out like this. Aaron took a step closer. Then how did it start? James hesitated. After the news of the ambush, Lily broke down. She was in shock. I was just trying to be there for her. And one night she called me crying. I came over to check on her. Then it happened again and again. And over time, it became something more. Aaron's stomach turned. Lily whispered, I never stopped loving you, Aaron. But after months of silence, I broke. I needed someone. And James, he was the only one who understood my pain. We never meant to hurt you. You didn't even wait a year, Aaron said coldly. You buried me, wore black, and then what? Replaced me. Lily flinched at his words. That's not fair. Fair, he snapped, his voice rising now. I gave up everything to serve. Every day, I dreamed about this house. About you. About coming home to something real. I risked my life for that dream. And the 2 people I trusted most just gave up on me. There was nothing but shame in the room now. James opened his mouth to speak again, but Aaron didn't want to hear it. He looked at Lily, really looked at her. The woman he had planned to marry. The woman who used to wait for his calls, who once sent care packages with little notes that said, I miss your stupid jokes. That woman was gone, and standing in her place was someone else, someone who had moved on. I don't blame you for grieving, Aaron said quietly. But I do blame you for not believing in me, for giving up so easily. Lily wiped away a tear, but said nothing. Aaron looked at James one last time. You could have told me. You could have waited to be sure. But you made your choice. And then, with the weight of 1,000 memories crushing his chest, he turned and walked out of the house. The red door closed softly behind him. He wasn't dead when he left for war. But a part of him died the day he came home. Aaron didn't shout. He didn't punch the wall. He didn't break down in the street or yell out at the sky. He just walked away, silently. Broken. Each step away from the house with the red door felt like 1,000 pounds dragging behind him. His boots felt heavier than they ever had in war. But this battle, this one was different. There were no enemies in uniform. No sounds of gunfire or alarms. Just the quiet sting of betrayal. He didn't go back to the house he once called home. Instead, he walked across town, miles in the dark, to his sister's small apartment. She opened the door at 2 a.m., shocked to see him, still wearing his dusty uniform, eyes blank, lips pressed tight. She didn't ask questions. She just hugged him. For the next few days, Aaron barely ate. He barely spoke. He just sat, staring at the ceiling, the wall, the floor. Anything to avoid the memories. But they came anyway. Memories of Lily dancing barefoot in the kitchen, of James laughing on their porch with a beer in hand, of summer barbecues, of old jokes, of shared dreams. Now they all felt like lies. His phone buzzed with messages, from Lily, from James, from old friends. He didn't answer. He couldn't, he wasn't ready. But on the 4th day, something changed. He was sitting alone on the porch of his sister's apartment, wrapped in a hoodie, the morning breeze brushing against his face. The town felt smaller now, quieter, like it too was trying to figure out what to say. That's when someone walked by and stopped. Morning, soldier. Aaron looked up. It was Mr. Reynolds, his sister's neighbor, an old man in his 70s with a limp in his step and a deep scar across his left cheek. Hey, Aaron mumbled. The old man leaned on the porch railing. Name's Frank Reynolds. I was in Vietnam. Aaron nodded. Aaron Mitchell. I know. Your sister told me you served. Welcome home, even if it doesn't feel much like home right now. Aaron gave a weak smile, surprised by the man's bluntness. Mr. Reynolds sat down on the top step beside him. You know, son, when I came back from Nam, I was gone for 18 months. Came back to an empty house. Wife had left. Took the furniture, took the dog, even took my records. Aaron blinked. All of it. Every last thing. Thought I'd never recover. There was silence between them. Then Aaron finally asked, "So how'd you move on? How do you even start when everything you fought for is gone?" Mr. Reynolds chuckled softly. "You don't start with the house, or the girl, or the job. You start with the man in the mirror." Aaron looked at him. "You see," the old man continued, "you didn't fight for Lily, and you didn't fight for James. You fought for you, for your values, for your honor, for the idea of a life worth coming back to, even if that life isn't exactly what you expected." Aaron didn't say anything, but those words hit hard. "You've been through war, son," Reynolds added. "Real war. You survived that. Don't let two people's choices take that away from you. They made their bed. Now you gotta make yours." Aaron nodded slowly. "I don't even know who I am anymore." The old man smiled. "That's the beauty of it. You get to find out. From scratch. And trust me, this time you'll build something stronger. Something just for you." As Reynolds stood up to leave, he patted Aaron on the shoulder. "Go slow. Heal right. But don't stop moving forward." Aaron sat there for a while after the man left. Thinking. Reflecting. For the first time in days, he didn't feel like sinking into the floor. He felt something stir in his chest. Not anger, not bitterness. Just the smallest spark, that a quiet voice that whispered, "You're still here. You're still standing." Maybe he didn't come home to the life he thought he'd have. But maybe, just maybe, there was another one waiting for him. One that wasn't built on old dreams, but on new strength. Months passed. The wounds were still there, deep ones, but time had begun to stitch them shut. Not with magic, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, like dawn after a long, dark night. Aaron didn't try to forget what happened. He didn't bury the pain. Instead, he decided to use it. That he joined a local veteran support group, a place where soldiers like him came together to talk, to grieve, to laugh, and to figure out how to live again in a world that no longer felt the same. At first, he just listened. But over time, he started to speak. That he told them his story. About the battlefield. About the love he lost. About how the biggest ambush didn't happen overseas, but in his own hometown. And what surprised him most was that he wasn't alone. Men and women around him nodded with understanding. Some had lost spouses. Others had lost limbs. Some had lost themselves entirely. Aaron found something he hadn't expected. Purpose. Helping others helped him. That he started organizing community events, helping returning soldiers find jobs, mental health support, even places to stay. Slowly, day by day, his routine returned. He started sleeping better, eating better, smiling more. And then, one sunny afternoon at a veterans charity fundraiser, his life quietly changed again. He was handing out water bottles when someone tapped him on the shoulder. "Need some help?" Aaron turned and saw her, Emily. A nurse. Kind eyes. A tired smile. Hair pulled back in a messy bun. Freckles on her cheeks. And the kind of presence that felt safe. She had been volunteering at the event. She offered to help set up chairs, clean up tables. And by the end of the day, they were sitting on the tailgate of a truck, sipping lemonade and swapping stories. That's when she told him her brother had served. He didn't make it back. Aaron didn't say much at first. He just listened. And for the first time in a long time, someone listened to him, too. Not out of pity, not out of obligation, but out of real, honest understanding. They didn't rush anything that in oh grand romance. No promises. Just two people who had both lost something and still found a reason to show up. They started meeting more often. Coffee at a quiet cafe, walks through the park, volunteering side by side at the shelter. There was no pressure, no need to impress, and that's what made it work, Aaron noticed. It one morning. He had woken up without that heavy pit in his chest. He looked in the mirror and didn't see the ghost of a broken man anymore. He saw someone becoming something new. He was healing. He didn't need closure from Lily. He didn't need apologies from James. That he had already forgiven them in his heart. Not for their sake, but for his own. Letting go wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing peace over pain. And peace was finally finding him. That he never ran into them again. He never went back to the house with the red door. He didn't need to. That chapter was over. He was writing a new one now. And it was better, stronger, real, because sometimes Life has to take everything you thought you needed to show you what you were truly capable of becoming. Aaron didn't come home to the life he had dreamed of. He came home to build a better one, a life with purpose, a life with healing, a life with someone who understood that love isn't about perfect timing. It's about honest connection. And above all, a life where he finally found himself. Sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought on the battlefield, but in the heart. Aaron's journey reminds us all that betrayal doesn't have to define you, that heartbreak can be the beginning of strength, and that even in the darkest chapters, there's always a path forward, one step at a time. So, if you're out there picking up the pieces of your life, just remember, you survived. You're still standing, and your story isn't over, not even close. Speech Balloon, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We bring you real, emotional stories that remind us all of life's hardest lessons and the strength to rise again. Broken Heart, leave a comment below. Have you ever faced a moment that changed everything? Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next story. Until next time, remember, every ending is the start of something new. Dizzy.